This is the story of the lightest laptop Apple has ever made, a cut-down version of Apple's watchOS designed to run on a sub-processor, and how these two semi-connected things might affect the final days of the Intel Mac. To start this discussion, I think we need to go back to the 2015 through 2017 MacBooks. Hear me out. In my backpack, I have Apple's two lightest laptops they've ever made, the MacBook Air 11-inch and the MacBook 12-inch, respectively the 2015 and 2017. These are the only 1 kilogram and under laptops Apple has ever made, or less than 2.2 pounds. The MacBook Air 11-inch form factor dates back to 2010 and was Apple's smallest laptop until the return of the MacBook in 2015. Its footprint was smaller, it was thinner, it was lighter, and it managed to pack in a larger screen. In fact, the 12-inch MacBook is Apple's only 2-pound laptop, making it only a half-pound heavier than Apple's heaviest iPad. It's pretty easy to see how Apple was able to expand the screen size while shrinking the computer when you look at the bezels of the 11-inch MacBook. Video just doesn't do this display justice. It is better in every single regard. It has a wider viewing angle, much richer colors, a much higher resolution that's nearly double as it's a Retina display, and it's also 16 by 10 as opposed to 16 by 9. To get to its extreme slimness, Apple ditched MagSafe, USB-A, and Thunderbolt and switched to a new keyboard using the infamous butterfly switches. The end result is a stunning yet compromised design that's willing to forego even creature comforts of a second USB-C port to get to its ultra-slim status. This particular MacBook is a 2017, the last year it was produced. I truly love what this computer was aspiring to be, and that is the most portable computer money could buy, running a commercial operating system. And yeah, that's a shot at the iPad. This is the mid-tier model, and yet it only has a 1.3 GHz dual-core i5 with 8 GB of DDR3. The end result is the 2017 MacBook is only fractionally faster than the 11-inch 2015 MacBook Air. And the Air, in my experience, is less laggy. And if these specs sound really bad in 2017, the original MacBook 12-inch in 2015 shipped with only the Intel Core M series CPUs. If you don't remember these, that's because Intel would prefer you forgot them. Speed, size, and CPU aren't the reasons that make this computer special. It's the fact that it's still supported by Apple, at least for now. What makes this computer unusual isn't the hardware that it has, it's what it lacks. No, it's not the missing ports. My 2017 MacBook runs Ventura natively, whereas I had to use OpenCore Legacy Patcher to put Ventura on my 2015 MacBook Air. OpenCore Legacy Patcher lets you run modern macOS on unsupported hardware. What makes it different than almost any other Mac that's still supported is it doesn't have a T2 chipset. In fact, it's only one of two computer lines supported in Ventura that doesn't have a T1 or T2 chipset. The other is the iMac line, specifically the 2017s and the 2019 refresh. These are the most important Macs right now for users looking to extend the life of their Macs beyond Apple's support window. If Apple removes support for these, this could be game over for people using technologies like OpenCore. Apple's T1 chipset was Apple's first attempt at sticking Apple Silicon inside an Intel Mac. It was first found in the MacBook Pro 2016 and made its way into the 2017 models. Apple's T1 was based on the Apple S2 SoC, which was found in the Apple Watch Series 2. Information is harder to come by on the T1. As near as I can tell, it supported a secure enclave that wasn't as encompassing and did not use a dedicated subprocessor. Apple's T2 was Apple's multi-use chipset based on the A10. It was responsible for features like encrypted storage, secure boot capabilities, enhanced image signal processing, and security for things like Touch ID. The T2 and probably the T1 ran its own separate operating system, BridgeOS. BridgeOS was a cut-down version of watchOS and functioned as the bridge between Intel's hardware and the extended functionality offered by Apple's A10 CPU, as it controlled the touch bar on Touch Bar Macs and interfaced with the Secure Enclave processor. One of the more surprising features of the T2 is not that it just improved webcam video by using post-processing, it also accelerated video encoding and decoding using Apple's low-level framework, Video Toolbox. Another key feature of the T2 is that it contained the Secure Enclave processor. And to make things even more convoluted, the Secure Enclave processor ran its own operating system known as SEP-OS. And if you're curious, I made an entire video about SEP-OS. But for this video, all you need to understand is the Secure Enclave really hardens macOS security, including the boot sequence. Apple didn't introduce the T2 until 2017 with its curious one-off iMac Pro. After that, it was more widely adopted with the MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and the Mac Mini, and 2019 for the Mac Pro, and then finally, in 2020, to the iMac. The MacBook was also a bellwether for things to come. It was the first modern Mac that did not have user-replaceable storage. iFixit would give this computer a 1 out of 10 in repairability. This would be the start of a trend. Apple would redesign the MacBook Pro in 2016 to follow the same design, moving Apple into a new realm of user hostility when it came to serviceability. Since the switch to Apple Silicon in late 2020, all Intel Macs are operating on borrowed time. At some point in the future, Apple is going to drop support for all Intel Macs. Thus far, Apple hasn't explicitly made any moves to thwart users from utilities like OpenCore Legacy Patcher to put Ventura on an unsupported Mac, like my MacBook Air 11-inch. It's running Ventura and it does it really well. There's just not a massive hardware difference between, say, a 2015 MacBook Air and a 2017 MacBook. However, there is a much bigger difference between a 2017 MacBook and a 2016 or later MacBook Pro. And that, of course, is the inclusion of the T1 or T2 chipset. Apple has a history of dropping hardware support rather abruptly, but during the Intel era, it's felt a lot more artificial. This is a topic I've addressed multiple times on this channel. Now that Mac sales are plummeting, I've seen a few people wonder if Apple might accelerate dropping Intel Macs, as they did with Ventura, or require the T2 chipset to stop OpenCore Legacy Patcher users. The MacBook 2017's officially supported days are totally numbered, as are the 2017 iMacs. But there's still one other refresh that did not include the T1 or T2 chipset, and that, my friends, is the 2019 iMacs. It's in Apple's court if they'll ever require the T1 or, more likely, the T2 to boot macOS in the final days of the Intel Mac era. If they do one day require the T2, there's always the chance that there will be a workaround. However, I wouldn't want to count on it. If Apple decides to require the T2 before closing the book on Intel Macs, the 2019 iMacs might delay Apple for another year or two before the harsh jaws of planned obsolescence finally close. The MacBook 12-inch is indicative of both Apple's best and worst impulses, pushing the boundaries of design, and yet it's also a vestige of a bygone era, one where Apple was willing to gamble on trading functionality and performance in the name of aesthetics. It occupies a space that no other Mac does. It's Apple's last laptop that does not feature an Apple SoC inside it, but it's the Mac that created Apple's design language that we have that's still with us today, like being offered in multiple colors, retiring the glowing Apple logo, introducing USB-C, increasing the trackpad size, but also featured soldered down components, creating the beautiful locked boxes that we have today. This undersized computer has had an oversized effect on the rest of the Mac lineup. The lack of BridgeOS makes it the bridge of Apple yesterday to today. By the time you watch this, macOS 14 might be already out. Hopefully it includes support for these old computers.